We're talking about SSH. Get it? It was a bad joke, okay? It was a good way to get everyone to quiet down and listen and get ready for SSH Arc and SSH. So but yeah, welcome to our session. Tess, you want to start us off?
Sure. Hi folks. Thanks for joining us today. First of all, just wanted to say a big thank you to our sponsors. It's been a really great week here at PSConfEU, and we're excited to help close out the day. For those of you that I haven't met, my name is Tess. I'm a software engineer at Microsoft. I work on the PowerShell and OpenSSH team. I primarily work on OpenSSH for Windows, as well as desired state configuration. This is my first PSConfEU. I'm really excited to be here, and I'm sure my co-presenter needs no introduction.
Oh no, I'm Steven. We are not just, we call ourselves the PowerShell team, but we're not just PowerShell. So one of those things that I think surprises people a lot that is under our responsibility is SSH. So SSH for Windows and stuff like that has been a responsibility of our team for a pretty long while now. And Tess is our rock star engineer working on the project. So I help maintain it with her, help keep things on track as a product manager for it. And this is my fourth PSConfEU. So I don't know when I'm considered a veteran or not, but probably.
I think you're there.
Cool. So, how many people are already familiar with, SSH on Windows? Everyone? Okay, pretty much everyone's got a hand up. We typically talk to folks and they don't think about SSH and Windows together. They think of SSH as a completely separate thing. They think about WinRM. They don't associate the two together. And this has been a fairly long time coming for us to try to develop SSH integrate SSH more into the Windows platform and across the Windows ecosystem. And so we've been doing a lot of work around that. So so to clarify too, you may hear multiple terms around SSH. Win32 OpenSSH is the kind of the name of the real name of the project. We kind of just refer to it sometimes as just SSH or OpenSSH, but that is the fork of the OpenBSD Foundation's OpenSSH portable repository. So they maintain the main SSH. We maintain a fork of that for the Windows version that contains a little bit of differences. Do you want to talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so our fork has a compatibility layer for Windows, just for some of those platform differences. So some of the reasons to use SSH in Windows compared to the other remoting options like RDP or WinRM is that it provides secure remote login. So SSH supports key pairs for authentication, whereas RDP only supports password authentication. SSH.
What does the S in SSH stand for? The first one. Secure. Okay. Everyone's done their homework. So.
SSH is also auditable, so it logs to the event viewer in Windows by default. It can also be configured to support file-based logging. This is again compared to RDP, which when you're in the GUI session, those clicks can't be tracked like they can in an SSH session. SSH supports both command execution and file transfer, and it is actively maintained. We release the previews on GitHub, and then we eventually roll those into a stable release, which is what you see inbox in Windows. And again, this is compared to WinRM, which is only in servicing at this point in its life cycle. So what's new? The SSH server is installed by default on Windows Server 2025. The SSH client and SSH server are available as features on demand. The SSH client has been installed by default previously, and now we've added the server installed by default as well. So this makes getting started with SSH easier than ever.
Yeah, so all you have to do is enable it now on Windows Server 2025. It's now part of November, when it kind of became more ingrained in the box there. So we'll show off a little bit more about what this looks like on Windows Server 2025 as well later. So
yeah, so if we look at this, or right now.
I forget the ordering of our demos.
If we look at this Windows server that we have on our local machine, we have the server manager UI. There's a remote SSH access. toggle. So if you click enable, it will bring up a PowerShell window that just wants you to confirm that you're enabling SSH. And if you say yes, it's going to just start the service. But the binaries and everything are already on the machine. By default, we are allowing access to 2 local groups. So there's the administrators local group and this OpenSSH users group that have already been added to the SSHD config file. So if there are any users that you want to allow access, you can add them to this OpenSSH users group. And again, administrators are also allowed by default. We all have a known issue where this is not localized. So if you're on a non-Windows machine, this obviously is not going to work for you.
And the guy who found the bug is sitting right there. So we're very aware of it. We're actively fixing it. So just wanted to call that out, where you will have some kind of localization issues with the groups.
Yeah, and if you are able to try our preview release, this is fixed in a preview release. So give that GitHub release a try and let us know any feedback there.
Yeah, we try to let the previews bake a good while before they get into a stable branch, so we can make sure there's no other bugs, regressions, or changes in behavior before we really roll it out more widely. But a fix is there, so we're getting that.
Go ahead. So the question is it for native Linux only or for... So the bug is within, the question is where the bug is, and it's within the SSH server. So it's going to be on all Windows machines. It's going to affect any incoming connections. It doesn't matter where the client originates from.
Yeah. So yeah, we're super excited about having SSHD installed by default now on Windows Server. That just helps a lot about it. So you also hear us say SSHD and SSH Server. For all intents and purposes, those are the same thing, or the SSH daemon, right? It's called. And so just clarifying a number of terms, because I know sometimes it can get confusing, but you want to go ahead, Tess?
Yeah, so real quick, just some trivia on the SSH server. The goal of it is processing incoming connections over a network. It's authenticating a user, and if that's successful, it's authorizing the user to access the parts of the machine it should have access to. By default, the SSH server is running as a service in Windows in the system context so that it has the necessary privileges to be able to do this. Does anyone... Oh, I kind of gave it away. So there's a firewall rule that filters the network traffic for the server by default. On Windows Server 2025, it's only allowing connections on private networks by default, but this can be configured to your needs. And what port is the server listening on? 22.
Man, you guys are the pros. Why are we giving this presentation? But yeah, it listens on port 22. Obviously, we recommend you to change that or even use other services that don't even expose the ports, which we'll talk about later with SSH Arc. So,
yeah, so SSH can also be configured to listen on multiple ports. If you'd like, that would be managed in the SSHD config file. This holds all of the configuration settings for the server. It's located in the program data SSH folder on Windows machines. And the SSHD config file, we'll just pull it up real quick. It has a lot of settings. They have a lot of different input options. And
it's very readable as well. It's
just a text file.
It's just a text file with, it's a little bit difficult to read and manage. And if you get one little thing wrong, it can sometimes just break, right? So, have people done a lot of kind of modification of the SSHD config before to change ports, to change rules, et cetera, et cetera? Not too much? Okay, but a few folks. Well, guess what? We're making it easier. So we've been working on this thing called SSH posture control, where we can have an Azure policy that can be, we have a PowerShell module and a Azure policy accompanying that, that can help you manage and change and configure the SSHD config file so that you can more easily at scale change settings for the SSH decon file. So yeah, do you want to? Yeah, so it's powered by the OS config PowerShell module. It supports both audit and configuration scenarios, and it's available on the Azure portal or directly in PowerShell. So if you are in a ecosystem where you use the Azure policy and within Azure, it's available there. And of course, you can use it directly through the OS config module as well. But yeah.
Yeah, so just to add a little bit more detail on posture control, it's parsing a subset of the directives in the SSH config file, and SSH is secure by default, but the goal of this is to provide the recommended settings so that you can apply defense in depth, additional protection and restrictions based on your use case and further reduce the attack surface of the SSH server. The default values that are recommended follow industry standards for compliance, and the policy, of course, can be further customized to meet any organizational standards that you may have. It also can be rolled out to all the machines using safe deployment practices in rings so that you're able to apply these configuration values at scale and make it easier to manage.
Yeah. So why would you even want to be modifying this SSHD config file? Why, it's, first of all, it's a pain to go out and do this, one by one, but do you want to talk a little bit about why it's important to us?
Yeah, so just a real quick example. Are folks familiar with a CVE that happened a couple years ago called the Terrapin attack? So that was a targeted SSH connection during the KEX exchange pre-authentication. Various OpenSSH softwares were impacted differently, but for OpenSSH for Windows, there were two possible mitigations. One was a software patch to implement the strict KEX protocol, and this would need to be implemented by both the server and the client to abide by the new protocol. Or you could restrict the ciphers and MACs that the vulnerability was applicable to. So the specific ones are listed there. And so if you didn't have the chance to apply the software patch right away, or if you weren't entirely sure that all the clients connecting to your server were going to be patched as well, you could apply the configuration changes immediately and continue operating the SSH server securely until you were able to have that downtime and patch your machine.
Yeah, and it's specifically the ciphers and the MACs that you can kind of configure in the SSHD config file to help more immediately, secure you from this kind of attack or the CVE. So that's just one of the use cases that we wanted to share out. Of course, there's many other use cases for doing this, but as far as security and defense in depth, this is a key reason why we're looking at being able to more easily change and configure the SSHD config file.
So we're going to walk through the basic experience for posture control in both the Azure portal and in PowerShell. Yes. So the question was, is there a relationship between OS config and DSC? So
I think we'll probably talk about that a little bit later, actually, in the presentation. So you're getting ahead of us here. So we'll definitely talk a little bit more about some of the DSC things. But yeah, do you have another question?
I was wondering about GEA. Will GEA just enough administration?
Okay, so the question was, is GEA or just enough administration going to be supported on SSH? Right now, that's something we're looking at. It's not currently implemented, but there is kind of ways you can do it they're kind of hacky, but right now it's something we're looking at. I don't think I have a good answer for that right now, but we're very aware that like GEA is an important piece of the remoting things, and I see a lot of head nods too, so that tells me we got to start looking at it even closer now. So we'll definitely be checking that out later. So yeah, another question. No, you can be a specific user, like in the SSH. What's the user group there? The
OpenSSH users.
Yeah.
So the question, just for the recording is if you SSH to the machine, you're always an administrator. So if you are an administrator, you're always immediately elevated. We are also investigating if it's possible for an administrator to log in unelevated, but there's some difficulties there just with how that's implemented on Windows, obviously without sudo and stuff like that. But yeah, we've considered that as well and hope to have a solution for that at some point in the future.
Yeah. Okay.
Is there any effort in that to harmonize what happens if you log in with using like a name and password, or if you log in using main private key? Because these are different login types at this time. Private key will create a login type 3, whereas explicit authentication will create a login type 8, which you cannot disable disabling network access. Purpose. And is that being looked into?
So the question is there any work being done to differentiate between password logon and key-based logon?
Oh, to harmonize it to make it better together. I think we're still looking at. I mean, I'd love to know deeper too, like what are the differences. I think this is the first time I'm fairly new to the space, so I'm still learning all the SSH nuances and stuff. So I'd love to chat more about the differences in that kind of pipeline too after this conversation. But shorter answer is not yet, but yet. Exactly. We will get. Yes, this is why we come here. We gotta learn a lot about this stuff. So why don't we show off what this looks like?
Alrighty, so we're going to go to the Azure portal. So we're going to add the policy for SSH posture control. If you're configuring a Linux machine, the policy is already available generally. If you're configuring a Windows machine, it's still in preview. So we'll share the instructions, but these policy JSONs are available in the instructions. There's one for auditing, and then there is another one for configuring. We're going to apply the audit policy, so we can just copy that and do a new policy definition. You select the location, put in a name, a description to remember what it is, select use existing, and then here you would just paste in the JSON and save it. I've already gone ahead and done this because it does take a little while to propagate. But once it's created, you would just select these 3 dots over here I got to select one that I can apply the policy to. But here you would select assign policy and then the subscription, any resources that you would like to exclude from it. And then in parameters, you can choose whether this should also apply to Arc machines or not. On the next tab, it is for remediation. It can remediate devices that already exist, or it can only take effect on newly created resources, which is the default. And then you can create the policy. Once the policy has been applied, you can go into your machine under the operations blade and configuration management. You'll see the policy name. And if we select it, it will show us which directives are compliant and which ones are not, as well as the recommended values. So again, this is just the audit policy. If we were using the configure policy, it would not just detect whether it was compliant or not, it would also remediate any incompliant directives.
So this is a great way to see a lot of the recommendations and security baselines for SSHD. Just kind of in a list here, you can see what's compliant, what's non-compliant, a little bit additional information. I know it's a little bit tricky to see in some of these panes here, but yeah, it gives you a good summarization if you're not familiar too much with some of the SSH stuff. Yeah, question. No, so the question was, will this work for Windows Server 2025 or newer? No, it will not. It will work for any SSH hang on, my words. It will work on any Windows machine down to, I think, like 2019 that has Windows Server installed and enabled. The main difference between Windows Server 2025 and the previous versions is it's just installed already. So you can still go back and install SSH and enable it, and then use this kind of posture control there as well. You just have to do one extra step. So yeah, but it will work on lower level devices. Yeah. So the question was if there's any other prerequisites. Not real. I mean, it's really going to be just installing and enabling it, and then you can use the posture control there to do it. I'm actually not entirely sure what happens if there isn't a SSH config file there. I imagine they have some kind of error checking or something. But
yeah,
this is in preview, so we can bring this up and make sure that case is what do you call it? Covered. If you don't have any SSH, installed, this policy would kind of flag it as such. So that's a good call out. Thank you. Cool. Do you want to show us how to do it in PowerShell?
Yeah, let's do it.
So like we said, this is all built on the OS config PowerShell module that we've worked closely with the team on to create a way to not only, the policy uses the PowerShell module behind the scenes to help, apply these things and audit these things. And so we'll show you a little bit about how you can also use it yourself to make your own kind of custom configurations or custom management solutions with PowerShell here. So, sorry?
Yeah, it is. I was trying not to share my IP address. Oh no, but it is blank. Yeah. Yeah, I think it is.
All right, well, we're going to delete the machine as soon as we're done here. Please, nobody go.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Alrighty, so wipe those last 10 seconds from your mind. So we're on our Windows server, and we're going to just import this OS config module. I've already installed it, but just to make sure that it's on the machine, we will look that we have it. And then so we can run both get and set here. This get command will look a lot like what you see in the portal, just formatted with the directive and the...
Why don't you scroll up a little bit so we can see the full code together there for it, but...
Oh yeah, so we're running get OS config desired configuration. The scenario is SSH, and then we're just formatting it into the name of the directive, the status, and the reason.
Yeah, so it looks, like she said, just exactly like what it looks like in the portal that way. But we'll be saving all this code and stuff to the GitHub as well, so you'll be able to access this later on too.
So let's take a look at those ciphers we were talking about earlier. As you can see, it's not compliant right now, and this is... the recommended value. So we can go ahead and use the set OS config desired configuration commandlet. Again, with the SSH scenario, you'll put the directive name and the desired value. And then this will not only update the SSHD config file, it will also restart the server so that the setting takes effect immediately. So if we just go ahead and run the get one more time, we can see that the cipher was updated. I'll make this a little bigger. And so now our ciphers are compliant and set to the default value.
Yeah, another question.
The banner, for example, is wanting an expected value, but if I want to personalize the banner, it's my company. Is that doable, and is OS config smart enough to then say?
Yeah, so the question was if you can customize the values. I believe you can in the portal. I don't know the exact syntax on the PowerShell module, but you definitely can in the portal JSON configuration for the policy that way. It's just kind of in the JSON too, right?
Yep.
So you can just edit it there, or I think in the GUI even there's a kind of an okay way to do it, but I could be misremembering. So, yeah.
Cool. Alrighty.
Yeah. So
Oh, question.
Oh, sorry. Another question.
There's no way to bypass the restart, but the changes won't take effect until the restart.
Yeah, so you need to have the restart of the SSHD to actually have the changes be applied from the config file. I see. Okay, that's a good scenario to bring up as far as being able to control the reset separately. I don't think we have that today, but we can think about that definitely. So, cool. So, another question. Are there any hard restarts required? Just the service, I think. You don't have to. Yeah, you don't have to restart the entire server. It should. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Because the session spawned in a different process than the service is running in, so you can restart it while you're connected.
Got it. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. We don't do that. So we wanted to talk a little bit about what's next with some of the SSH on Windows and stuff. So right now we did mention the Windows SSH posture control policies are in preview right now. So we'll include links. Do we have the links on this slide, or maybe it's towards the end?
It's in the last slide.
It's the end. But we'll include links on how you can do this. All the documentation is there showing exactly what we did here for that. So definitely give it a shot for Windows machines if you are managing SSH on those machines. Should go to the next slide or next point. So DSC, I know that's a big topic at this conference and in general, and so we are also within the PowerShell team is within DSC, and Tess does work on DSC as well. So do you want to talk a little bit about the work you're doing with DSC and SSH deconfig?
Yeah, so this hopefully the SSH deconfig DSC resource will be a more holistic solution for setting those SSH deconfig settings, not only the subset that you saw up there, but ultimately all of the settings that are in SSH deconfig. Right now, you can export the SSH deconfig settings based on the SSHD-T. Are folks familiar with using SSHD-T to validate the configuration file before starting the SSH server?
You are now. Yeah, there you go.
We'll show it in a second.
Yeah, if you ever need to just validate the stuff, SSHD-T is a great command to use. So,
And then we also want to support configuring some of those global settings that are outside of SSH deconfig on Windows, such as configuring the default shell. These changes will be in a DSC preview release soon. They're not holistic yet. There will be edge cases. And so if you do try it out, please provide feedback and report any issues.
If there's other settings outside of SSH deconfig and the stuff that we've covered, like I said, the main one I think is the default shell that's outside that we're looking at. If there's other ones that you think is really valuable, we can definitely be working on incorporating that. As you've heard, we've been working very, very fast on DSC v3s, so we've been able to iterate and kind of spin out new previews pretty fast. So you should see a DSC preview that includes this relatively soon.
So if we just look at it briefly, I'll start by running SSHD-T to show you what that looks like. Right now, it's actually a great tool if you want to make sure your config file changes aren't breaking anything, because if you try to start the service with a config file that has something wrong, you'll get a very random error that's not very telling. So if you do make changes to SSH deconfig and you're having trouble starting it, this is a good way to check that the configuration file doesn't have any typos or anything in it. But so with the SSH deconfig resource, I'll just show you the JSON for the configuration file. So that is going to call this SSHD-T. Thank you. Alrighty, so we have this SSHD config resource. It does need to be run in an elevated security context to run SSHD-T. So we specify that in our metadata. Now, if I run this through DSC, I can export all of those settings in a YAML that can then eventually be modified so that you can easily configure that text file.
You scroll down to the shell. Where does it say the?
We haven't.
Oh, is this on a different one?
Yeah.
Okay. It's coming. We'll have a more line item with the default shell there.
Yep. So if we wanted to configure the default shell, we'll do it on this local machine. It's not configured right now. So it's just CMD when I SSH in. And then again, if we look at a YAML for this, we have a SSHD config resource and the shell. So we can run DSC config get and see that there is no shell configured in the registry. I just realized I need to update the YAML with the path to PowerShell.
Yeah, and while she's doing that, the default shell configuration on Windows is within a registry key. Linux has a much different way of doing that, but for Windows, it's within a registry key to change the default shell that SSH uses when you connect to that machine. So obviously, I know everyone in this room needs to change it to PowerShell 7. So we wanted to show this off and make this. No, you can use whatever you'd like. I just, it's all fun and games with that. But it is an easy way to change out, settings to SSH at scale too.
Oh, okay. I need to use the short path.
Live coding here. Live demo.
What is it?
I thought it was programmers. I think you might need the one. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you.
I'm glad we all know what that is too. So look at that.
So now if we set it, we'll see the before state we didn't have a shell, the after state we do, and when we SSH onto the machine, we will be using PowerShell.
Voila.
Teamwork.
There we go. So yeah, that's a little bit about what's next. We did leave a little time. We could probably go a few minutes over since we were answering questions kind of within this, if you guys don't mind. We can talk a little bit about SSH Arc, or how many people were in Jan's session earlier this week where he talked about Arc and SSH Arc? Is everyone somewhat familiar? Okay, so why don't we talk about SSH Arc just briefly here? So SSH Arc, or how we sometimes like to refer to it as Shark, SSH Arc. Yeah, anyways, I like that name quite a bit. But SSH Arc is how you can SSH onto Arc-enabled machines within Azure. So these are machines that you have on-premise that you've installed an Arc agent on that connects that machine to Azure, so it looks like it's in Azure. You can use all the Azure management tools with it. One thing we want to highlight as far as like why it's actually pretty valuable and pretty unique is that you can connect to these machines without ever exposing a public IP. So what that means is, typically you'd have a SSH client and to any other server, and you'd have to expose some kind of IP or some kind of thing. But with SSH Arc, it actually goes through a relay within Azure and goes directly to that machine, so you do not have to expose any IPs to this machine. So it makes it a lot more secure and reliable that way. Anything to add on that, Tess?
Yeah, not only are you not exposing a public IP, you're not opening any additional open ports. Those are all the connections managed entirely through the Azure Relay and a proxy. So the main CLI experiences for connecting as a client are the Azure CLI SSH extension, the Azure PowerShell SSH module, and PowerShell Remoting over SSH. We can run through a quick demo of connecting to a Windows Server Arc machine and a Linux Arc machine. So I have already put some of the connection info in, but you just need to install the AZ module, log into your AZ account, and set your subscription. And then you can run this enter AZ VM commandlet. It needs the resource group name, the machine name, and for Windows, the local user, as well as your authentication. I've already set up private key authentication. So if we just go ahead and run this, it will set up the connection with the proxy. So you can see that I'm on the machine because I don't have Oh My Posh on my target machine, and my terminal has changed. One of the great things about using Shark is that we also support an RDP parameter so that you can tunnel your RDP session through SSH. So we can go ahead and run that as well.
So all you have to do is add the -RDP flag here, and you will... Is it opening it?
Oh, yep. Here we go.
Oh, there we go. I saw a hand up too. Yeah. That's the question was, is it PS remoting or is it SSH native? It's SSH native, right?
The enter AZ VM commandlet is SSH native.
So you can see where... Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, sorry, if you didn't see, I had to still enter my password for the RDP session, and now I am on our Windows server that we were just looking at.
So in case you still need to RDP onto a machine, you have that availability with SSH and SSH Arc. Yeah, another cool. The question was, can you have this functionality for Azure VMs too? I think
you can use the commandlets. Yeah, you
this is
still
using
have to
the Arc
provide
agent,
the
so
IP
there is a
address.
little bit of differences between the two. Yeah, I don't know if Bastion is required or not, but we can follow up on that stuff. But yeah, do you want to also show quickly the Linux?
Yeah, so on Linux, we also support Entra-ID authentication. So you just have to install the extension on the machine and add the users with either virtual machine user login or virtual machine administrator logon permissions. And once that's done, you can run this enter AZ VM commandlet again, but you only need to provide the resource group name and the machine name. Oh, sorry. Here we go. And this will use Entra-ID to authenticate. So I will be on the machine as my alias. So if we look at who I am my Microsoft alias.
Yeah. Identity. Microsoft, yeah, identity. So, but it's super easy and super quick to be able to SSH onto a Linux Arc-enabled machine. Yeah, should we wrap up? Was there anything else you want to show on SSH Arc?
Do people want to see the PowerShell remoting, or most people familiar with that?
People done PowerShell remoting before on SSH Arc? This was covered in the session earlier this week, but wanted to... Anyone interested in seeing it? Say a couple nods. Let's do it.
We'll do it real quick. So there's this export AZ SSH commandlet, which takes the proxy info and will save it to this config file. So you provide all the same connection info as well as that config file path, and it will export the info. So all we really care about is this proxy command. And we're going to take the proxy command and save it to options. And then once we do that, we can use enter PS session. So I've saved that path to the proxy, and then enter PS session will take, again, the machine name, the username, and authentication, and as well as that proxy. Sorry. And we can connect to the machine using PowerShell Remoting over SSH. So that is our Arc machine on Windows.
Yep.
So really, you can export that config information and use it with any SSH client that you would prefer. You can use it with the native SSH as well. So just using the capabilities of the Azure proxy, not only within the Azure PowerShell SSH module.
Yeah, question. I'm sorry, could you repeat the question?
Win32 port on the end machine, or it doesn't work on the same particular
Okay, so the question was if will we have to do anything with the firewall rules and port 22 being open on this? This uses SSH. Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Well, why don't we
Yeah, I think we can wrap up.
show off some of the yeah, you want to talk about the last kind of key takeaways from this?
Yeah, just quick recap. I guess the three main things we covered is that the SSH server is installed by default on Windows Server 2025. There is SSH posture control to support both auditing and configuring SSH server settings on Azure machines. It's generally available for Linux and in preview for Windows. And SSH for Arc-enabled servers provides that remote access to an Arc-enabled machine without requiring a public IP address or any additional open ports. So here we just have some links for you as far as getting started. That top link is our preview link, and then second bullet is our getting started docs. The third one is posture control, and then links to Arc.
Yeah. We're also completely open source as well. So you can find us on GitHub. Just search OpenSSH or Win32 OpenSSH PowerShell GitHub, and you'll find us. We'll be responding to issues and stuff there. That's where you can try the previews. That's where you can report bugs, have discussions, all that, and more. So yeah, I think that's it. Any other questions we can take? Yeah, go ahead. Oh. Mm-hmm. Okay, so the question was, in previous versions, you were using Microsoft Update to patch the Windows Server. Will this change in Windows Server 2025? I believe the answer is no, right? What? Oh. Oh, we're not delivered by Windows updates. I'm sorry, I misheard you. Gotcha. Do you know this one, Tess?
Yeah, so OpenSSH is serviced through Windows Update, so that the thing that to keep in mind is just the bar for servicing. So that follows the Microsoft Security Research Center bar and SLA for servicing OpenSSH, but it is through Windows Update.
Plans on adding like public monoliths or functions and managing keys. One of the issues that I've seen is that it place keys below the security permission there. It's very hard to find out.
Yeah, so the question is there any plans to add any helper commandlets for troubleshooting keys and permissions? There are some commandlets in the repo that should get the user key file permissions as well as the host file permissions and modify them. But as far as the detection of like in the logs that is what is causing the authentication failure, that is something that we can take action on. Thanks.
Cool. Any other questions or comments? Oh, yes.
Before, so you did mention that you're going to look into that. Is there some kind of old problem that you can look at, and when can we expect that to be happening? Because for me, PowerShell Remoting without GIA is just on the making.
Got it. Yeah. So the question was, as far as timelines and other things we can look at for GIA. Unfortunately, I don't really have a good answer right now on that. We've explored a little bit, but I think we need to think through more like how we surface it and how we can present it in a way. But unfortunately, no timelines right now. But I hear you guys loud and clear as far as being able to do this. So I absolutely want to be looking into that stuff. So yeah, another question. So the question was, is the intention for SSH to completely replace WinRM? And I think the short answer is, yeah. That I mean, it's the reason I say that is because we are actively maintaining SSH. WinRM is not necessarily a highly maintained technology nowadays, so we want to make sure that customers are able to get a more secure, more auditable remoting protocol on Windows machines. So we're trying to move towards a security first kind of approach with remoting. Yeah, another question.
What's the plan for SIM? That you want to replace WinRM with SSH? Is going to be also work for SIM connections?
With SIM connections? CIM. Okay. I'm not positive, honestly. Do you know anything about that? I'm not.
No, so the question was replacing WinRM SIM scenarios.
Yeah. I can follow up on that though. Why don't we let's discuss more, and I'll figure things out with that. I'm about. It's always W. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I will say there's no like near term plans.
Yeah. It's not soon. Sorry, I shouldn't. any sort of like. Yes, we're talking very long out. It's not going to be immediately. It's not going to be this way. But like this is kind of the direction we're thinking about here. To at least give you guys a more secure option. So as far as some of the details and stuff, those are still being fleshed out with these other tools that use WinRM. But yeah, another question. No, please.
Fail to ban in SSH for Windows, like detecting APIs and then brute forcing all the ones that getting access to it.
Yes. So the question was, are there any plans for, what did you call it? Fail to ban for any connections that you want to block from certain IP addresses. And I think this is kind of addressed upstream with like the per source, like max penalties. So we will eventually be pulling those changes in. We are continuously behind upstream and do lag a bit, but we do plan to synchronize with upstream, so that capability will be available.
Cool. Anything else? Jordan, you know? We love the question. Thank you guys very much.
Thanks.